to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rusty, would you read the mission statement today? I will. Thank you.
Our mission to graduate all students with high levels of academic and personal achievement, ready for post-secondary excellence, prepared for productive, compassionate citizenship through research-based instruction and a collaborative system of support.
Right. 2.0 changes or deletions, I guess, just the one change you already mentioned.
Yeah, so I put 4.2, Tim and students here about the Washington DC trip, and then by then the students, student reps from Pleasant High School at the end of the report, otherwise we just may have to catch them coming.
That sounds good. All right, 3.0 introductions. And then attendance at previous board meeting. If anybody who's in attendance tonight could identify themselves, please.
I'll start. I'm Tim Meinzen. I'm an employee here and I teach publications.
I'm Sophia Brock. I'm a student. I'm Dawson Peacock. I'm also a student.
Hunter Giles.
Brittany Rowling, Special Education Director. Deborah Stoneberg, Elementary Principal.
Garth Rose, some school and high school principal.
Elizabeth Travis, my parent. Brooke Quinones, parent and kindergarten teacher. Jennifer Woodland, parent.
And then attendance last board meeting.
6 online, 11 on site.
All right. 4.0 presentations brings us to 4.1, the BC trip report.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the lights. Actually, you know what? I think I'll have my students talk about it. So I'm here to present and thank the board for supporting our trip to Washington, DC. I understood that there were some concerns about board policy about funding for the trip, but you graciously gave that. Not you didn't fund it, but you allowed me to go and fund it myself. So I wanted to come and report to you what the DC program is about. But before I did that, I've asked 3 volunteers from the 11 kids I took to talk of their own accord. I have not prepped them, except to remind them of what the mission is, and to share their reactions to the program, and then also use some pictures, and then show you the rest of the reactions unedited by me. So I'm going to start with Josie Peacock, freshman at the high school.
So going to DC was an amazing trip for me, but as a student and citizen. As a student, I got to see history come to life at the memorials that we went to. I even got to see where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. As a citizen, I got to learn a lot about our country's political values, what we are based upon. I also got to learn a bit about our democracy and how our government works. I got to see Capitol Hill, got to go to the White House, I got to see Senate offices. And all of that just really helped me to learn more about our government and our country, which I think was a super amazing experience for me, and hope that others in the future get to have this one too. Thank you.
Now Sophia Brock, junior.
I probably don't have to tell you that rural areas like this one are a bubble, and living in it for your entire life creates a gap in knowledge about how other areas work. And I feel like this trip was a great opportunity for me, not only to see how our government and our democracy works, but also to learn how to be a compassionate citizen and how to respect people I disagree with.
Under Patterson, freshman.
In the Washington DC trip through close up is an absolutely once in a lifetime opportunity for someone from a community like Pleasant Hill. Provides, and again, like Jeff said, experience not only as a citizen, as a student, but also just as a person. You get a lot of exposure to people outside of the traditional kind of social environment. You get a lot of experience talking to people from different perspectives or viewpoints, as well as discussions and debates. Just a lot of information about the political system as well, just an insider view on how politics work, kind of make things seem less far away in a way. And like Joe was saying, knowledge of history, you get to see a lot of things that would ordinarily seem like the whole world away from Pleasant Hill. So that's why I think the closer program is just a very useful thing overall. It's really like nothing else that really exists.
Plus, you got a sweet T-shirt.
I will say this sure was well before, but I guess that maybe
$15. So, I've been doing this program for 20+ years, at least close to 18 times. I haven't kept count. And it's Close-Up is a long-standing program, not partisan, obviously, because it gets funded from Congress. So it wants to get kids interested in how democracy works, get them meeting kids from across the country, and teach the virtues of civic engagement. And ironically enough, going to DC makes students less cynical about politics, because you get to meet people who are actually engaged in it, and rather than turning away and thinking this is all a big corrupt experience, it actually makes us prouder of what we have had and what we can do as citizens. So it's an antidote to, I think, what ails us, in my experience. So this is our just chronological slides, about 28 of them. Showing you what of our experience. I take the kids. This year we hosted a new school, a Myrtle Point High School in the Coast. They've somewhat impoverished school, and they came along with us, and they were just thrilled and excellent companions for us to go. Plus, they provided free transport to and back from the airport. Sorry about this. But anyway, we left on a Saturday, got there Saturday night, and immediately after we fed the kids, I took them out to Lincoln Memorial. If you haven't had a chance to be in DC, the Lincoln Memorial at night is really beautiful and glorious because the marble literally glows. Okay. And just some pictures of the kids. I encourage them to read Lincoln's words, always a bracing reminder of our best values. And then, of course, they've been traveling since 3 or 4 in the morning. I took them on the metro, intentionally wanting to see what it's like to live in a big city where you don't get around in a car. Then we spent the next morning, got them up not too early so we can see the National Archives. It's a very popular place. We weren't able to get in the first time. We went to Ford's Theater then. And I explained while they were waiting in line the history behind Lincoln's assassination, which was a lovely chance for me to read. Experience being a history teacher again. This is a picture of Dakota, who is looking now at the makeup of the theater. We get to go in it, of course, as a museum. I also took them to the National Cathedral as an example of Gothic cathedral and the architecture. And then we got in free because there was at the same time an organ recital. I thought it would be thrilling, and something like a Night at the Opera was much more sedate, but still, it's an incredibly beautiful space. It's the 7th largest cathedral in the world, and it is truly Gothic in nature, and it's just stunning. I think all the kids realize that. And of course, on a sunny day, the light coming through the stained glass was gorgeous. There's Savannah White outside, and afterwards, they meet together in a hotel and meet with other schools and other students. Boy, largely stay, eat fire together with their groups. But they have lots of occasions to meet and discuss with their students. We also get a chance to see Arlington, and did you see the changing of the guards? See the Augusta mission and the patriotism of people who have given their life for our country. That comes a lot much more meaningful than this. There's 2 employees of the district coming out of one of the largest elevated escalator lines coming down the metro. And here we are in the halls of Congress. This is actually the Rayburn building where we got to meet. Unfortunately, this is the first time I've not met any of our senators, Wyden or Merkley, or even our new Representative Hoyle, but we got to meet their offices. And that was fun. This is the meeting representative from Merkley's office, and got to ask him questions. And then this is the gentleman of Wyden, and that room there is the Finance Committee's hearing room, where he's the chairman. He's right next to it. And it's the place where things happen, and you see pictures of this on the news. And so I asked if our kids could sit there, which I've done before, and we could. After a little bit of talking, but I wanted the kids to experience what's it like to be in democracy and have this kind of power, at least from that situation. And this was our president's box. You can tell which one of those guys is going to be the president, or not the chairman of the Finance Committee. Very powerful room, and how would you say the chairs would be for the chairs? Quite comfortable, yes. Whoops, this is. Oh, right there. Okay, this is in the Capitol Rotunda building that's only been recently opened to the public in the last few months. And we got a tour of it. The speaker talks into his headphones and so allows this massive group of people. And it's just a masterfully beautiful place. It's kind of stunning that anyone go to this place and destroy or vandalize it because it is really beautiful. I think all of us came away from that. Okay, so this is in probably the most beautiful interior space in America, very biased opinion. The reading room of the Library of Congress, and even though we could only look into it, you could, if you're 16, get a Library of Congress library card and go into that reading room, which was made famous or infamous by the movie National Treasure, but it really is something beyond description when you see it. Here's Hunter and Camille in front of the White House, about as close as you can get to the White House. And the comment on that sign was pretty cogent, pretty powerful. Stop hating each other because we disagree. That's a fundamental thing, and that's what close-up does, is get kids to discuss and to share their feelings and learn from each other. Very mixed groups. This is our group photo at the hotel. Mixing, and this gentleman here is Don Roy. What's Don Roy's last name? Okay. He was the PI. He's a very young PI who basically led a group of kids to the various places and led them through the thinking process of becoming a citizen. And this is coming home. That's Jack Greeny with Michelle Greeny meeting us at the airport after an arduous trip, which was canceled in the middle of the day, and we found Alaska got us home through a circuitous route. So I just wanted to thank you, board, for supporting it. I know the policy on board. I would hope that you could revisit that policy, perhaps about supporting at least one adult chaperone going out of state, because this is in my 20 years, of course, it's self-serving for me because I loved going there, but I can't think of a more powerful experience that creates real citizens who love the best of America, which is, and our tradition of democratic exchange and accepting and working with that across the country. So it's really a lovely, powerful experience for all the kids. And I just want to thank you for making that exception this year, and hope you'll revisit that policy so works that you'll consider supporting it in the future. Any questions? One more my share time. Questions? Okay.
I have a comment.
Oh, please.
I'm so glad you're all about to go. Yeah, really, had to, one of my friends went with your teacher, many years ago. And you say we do live in a bubble. Enlarging that, the rest of the world is so important. And he now works, he lives in Washington, D.C., and he works for the State Department. So you never know where you'll end up when you start about it.
Several of the kids said to me, we don't want to leave at the end of the week. It was just two of you. Well, I think there's three more, but the appeal of living in an urban environment really comes clear there. So just want to thank you again for that, Vance.
I was curious, I know you guys kind of came with prepared statements, but what was your favorite part of the trip, your favorite monument, museum?
I would say my favorite memorial to go to is probably the Korean Memorial. Just the different architectural design of it was very powerful movie. And then I really love going to different Smithsonian museums as well, which I think are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the Korean memorial isn't as like famous as the Vietnam, and so you go there and you're like, I didn't even know this was here.
Personally, a couple of my favorite buildings would be Capitol Building and the Library of Congress. I've been to a lot of places, but never have I seen such beauty and such history in an environment like that.
I think probably
Probably one of my favorite places to have seen on the trip was the Roosevelt Memorial. It's unlike a lot of the other memorials, but it's very simple and some minimalistic. There are some others, but it's very meaningful, very subtle in its design. Very impressive, and it really comes better when you actually read the history of it.
I don't know too much about that one.
It's relatively recent, I think it's the last 10 years,
Oh, okay,
so that's why I.
probably been that long since it's been that up there, so.
But anyway, and these kids can now, I think they can fairly say that they can tour their families around DC. We got a hand for that city, so. Well, thank you again.
Well, thank you very much for coming and doing that presentation. We don't get to hear directly from students hardly ever. You or your classmates are welcome back anytime. You guys are interested in seeing how democracy works for the country at large. We'd love for students to come and see how the board works. It can be boring, I'm sure, just as much as it can be in DC, but I'm sure there's value there. Thanks again for coming. I know on that same, on the flip side of that, if you guys have a lot of stuff to do, you want to stick around for the whole night, you're welcome to leave if you need to. This brings us to the SWAT 4.2 student invitation from Pleasant High School. Yes, if you guys need a minute, it's okay.
Oh,
I
we're
just want to-
Okay, so. Sorry, we're gonna see your numbers there. Okay, to start off, we'll start with sports. So both the boys and girls basketball teams went to the state tournament, and the boys got the sportsmanship award and the girls placed sixth. Which I believe was the first time since 2004 that the girls had placed, so that's really cool. And then spring sports are starting up right now. And then prom is approaching, it'll be on April 22nd. Ms. Watney is working with a group of juniors to plan that. And it's in the Veterans Memorial Building in Eugene. And then for the TVs we're getting in the school, we are having publications, which we're both the publications make like different
PSA.
for the TVs, that would be really cool to have on there. And then FFA has gone on quite a few field trips in the past month. They went on a logging connection field trip and then a farm business management CTE field trip. And that was pretty fun they were talking about. Then we have some clubs, two of Mr. Mike's clubs actually, the Billy Book Club and the Garden Club. The Billy Book Club just finished a book called Count the Stars, and they're going to join really well. And then the Garden Club has about 6 to 8 people on a regular basis, helping out on Thursdays, and they're doing lots of good work around the school. They're very impressed with all their hard work. It's looking great. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Is there anything that you guys personally think the board should know? Anything?
I don't know if anyone's talking about it tonight or not, but there was a petition going around about the library construction. That people believe that maybe there's other things that the school should be doing instead of that. And I think someone was probably talked about it. That's all I know about that.
What do you, in general, what do you think the consensus is, that that the library is a priority or other things?
I think it could be also a mixture of like miscommunication. Because it sounds cool, but I think a lot of people are thinking that like it's gonna be not a library, all the books are gonna be gone, it's just gonna be a cafe, and I think people are worried about that. And like instead, maybe get more books, better like actual library equipment.
Kind of like renovated, maybe some new chairs.
So I definitely think it could also just be a miscommunication.
So this was a petition that went out to the students.
It's going around high school and middle school.
It had, I think, like 200 signatures. So it had quite a bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just received that today. Yeah, I think it's great. Student voice democracy, we're talking through, we're kind of in the early stages of figuring out exactly what that's. Gonna look like, but once we get kind of financing and figure out all the ins and outs. We're definitely gonna include the students in their library. So thank you.
Well, again, we really appreciate you coming, especially back to back from your fundraiser.
Yeah, sorry, we're late.
No, it's totally fine. You guys are, go ahead, sorry, Willa.
I got a question. Did you say they have Billy's?
Yes.
What, tell me about that a little bit.
A group of middle school readers, trying to make it reading a cool thing to do, and started it last year, had a really awesome t-shirt. But we come and talk about books, but this year we tried something different. We read a book together. It's Number the Stars, I think. Oh, I can't remember the book. So we've read that. Now I have what I'm hoping we can do. I have you about whether they would be, there'd be an occasion for them to come and read to the elementary kids for 20 minutes. The schedule is kind of a tricky thing, but they would love to do that. What I'm trying to do is basically say reading is wonderful pursuit and something you should be proud of. And then also reading will help you not only expand your own understanding of the world, but also help other kids. So it's kind of a goal there. I have a horror of kids probably attracted to the snacks as much as we are the books. But whatever it takes.
You know, we'll run it when we need
And
to.
then you don't stress it, right? And then you just want to elevate reading.
Might try to have some leaders theater.
Yeah, that would be good too.
You know, I taught reading middle school kids for a long time. But another thing you can do is read 5 minutes to read a play and then go see it.
That would be really good. A lot of
And
fun.
read it.
They'd like it, yeah, that's a good idea. Gosh.
And yes, the door is open to the elementary, come anytime to be guest readers.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Just let me know the time.
Yeah.
I'll take you anytime. Yes.
Maybe that easy.
I was gonna say, gauging on their reaction, I didn't think there was any interest there whatsoever.
You know,
Just remember, be their middle school kids, so their maturity is.
I understand.
Okay,
Yeah, we understand.
okay, well, that's great, it's happening here.
That's why we like people coming to the meetings. Well, Rusty, you have anything? We have, I didn't even check to see if Drew was able to sign in. Is Drew there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Anything that you wanted to ask or add?
No, that all sounded good.
So, as I was saying right before you came in, we love it when students come in. We don't see you guys nearly enough. You're welcome to stay, but I totally understand if you've got other things going on. You sound really busy, so it's your choice.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for.
But thank you guys.
All right. 5.0 public forum. Individuals who are on site during this portion of the board meeting, members of the public are specifically invited to present items of commendation and or concerns. At the discretion of the board chair, further public participation may be allowed at the times specific agenda items are under consideration by the board. This is under district policy DDH. Individuals who are viewing online, PHSD posts the upcoming agenda on our website, which is at pleasanthill.k12.or.us, the Friday before regularly scheduled Monday school board meetings. This will allow for public comment prior to the board meeting. Please click on the tab provided to share your comments for the school board to consider at upcoming meetings. Personnel matters may not be discussed in public at a school board meeting. Members of the public who have personnel concerns or commendations should share them directly with the district superintendent. Any public comment tonight? Six board action items. 6.1 approved consent agenda. 6.101, we have the board meeting minutes from February 27th.
There's more on the back to Stephen.
Sorry,
There's more on the back for the consent agenda. It carries over to the back section of the agenda.
so this one,
Yes.
yeah, I was just starting there, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
just to make sure.
I just wanted to make
You know, I definitely see that there were more, I was just making sure that there, nobody had any corrections. Drew, any corrections?
No, but all look good to me.
Okay. We have 6.102 enrollment report for February. And then 6.103 personnel report. Any questions, concerns, discussions? If not, I'll hear motions.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. All right, 7.0, reports and information. 7.1, superintendent report.
6.2 first.
Like I said, 6.2, scroll down too fast. We're gonna approve,
So what we're asking you to do is approve first read for board policy JHCCF. And you've got an exhibit in front of you. Last board meeting, we brought this with some research and background regarding head lice. And this was brought up from our RN. The current policy excludes students infested with either lice or nits, and does not allow attendance of students with nits. Neither of these things are actually exclusionary under Oregon law. So what we're asking the board to do tonight, if you will look on. It is the second exhibit is 2223.94. So this is a OSBA sample model. Where students with nits and or infested with live lice would be allowed to remain in school. And it reads, a student with a suspected case of head lice may be referred to designated trained staff for a screening. The screening will be done in a confidential manner by trained personnel. School personnel will notify the parent or guardian of the student found with head lice and provide information on appropriate treatment. The student will be allowed to remain in school. The suggested school measures for head lice control is provided in head lice guidance published by the Oregon Department of Education and the Oregon Health Authority. Public Health Division shall be followed. And then I included that for you in your packet as well. What I call your attention to is in the OHA guidance under the summary. The management of head lice in the school setting should not disrupt the educational process. Evidence-based strategies include abandoning minimum school policies, educating students on the avoidance of head-to-head contact and sharing of personal items, allowing students to remain in class and participate in school-sponsored activities when live lice or nits are found in the heads, notifying parents, caregivers at the end of the school day when findings indicate the presence of head lice, and educating parent and caregivers about prevention methods, regular head checks at home, and evidence-based treatment options. And that packet also includes a flow chart on managing presumed head lice in schools. And that would essentially be taking place of the current head lice. That's statutory policy.
What is the fundamental difference from whatever was there previously?
What's there now, basically it excludes kids. It's an old exclusionary practice.
Under any circumstance.
Yeah, but there's no longer exists. It's not exclusionary anymore. Down the way along.
But that's basically the only difference.
When I read through this, I read through it in detail. My head started itching. So, I don't know how my parents feel about this. Obviously, it's low and all of them. As a parent myself. It's a little frustrating. My child is sitting next to me whose head is. But then, I also remember we were trying so hard with one of our kids to make her feel she got it in school. She felt really, we didn't want her to feel bad about it. So we tried to say, little colonies, we're in your hair. And so we opened the door and some friends came over and she said, I've got lice. So I don't know. you know, how to feel about this policy, but I get this law is law. Right, so we're obligated to law.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So in a non-exclusionary policy, then is a student just isolated through the day and stayed at school, or they're in the classroom?
Not necessarily. In many cases, you'll make a phone call to the parent will be,
Okay.
will generally come in, or if they're not able to come in, listen to the nurse, what the nurse has to say about the treatment options. The biggest issue that we generally deal with is overtreatment, and so it's really being able to educate them on what treatments exist and what are the best practices.
But if the parent wants to keep the child in school.
Yeah.
Does the teacher know that, or?
They can be very difficult. So what happens right now is even in the case where you get a parent who will go home and will treat, go through a combing practice, they'll come back the next day. The current policy, even if they have like 2 nits in the head, we send them back home. And that would be no light and ice. And so this would allow the student to be able to stay in school while we're treating. So
The child will be treated in school and then.
we generally won't do the treatment in school, so no, we'll send them home with the treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I would share all those concerns. I know I brought it up last time a couple of years ago, we had an outbreak. And even at that point, when we were excluding, it was difficult, it seemed, to move past it. So I'm curious how this will impact.
Having gone through the change from a exclusionary practice policy to a non-exclusionary practice policy in my 11 years as an elementary principal, I saw virtually no difference. Other than kids spending more time in school.
Right. And so I kind of got hung up because it says to approve first reading. Normally we do the first reading and then. But like John and I were talking through before, which part of this is the part that we actually approve and which of this is the stuff that is the AR that is the administrative rule that we have, you just advise us of.
Yeah, so the policy JHCCF would be.
It's the AR, right?
Minus the AR.
Oh, okay.
But I included both of those, you would have a reference, because in addition to that, the AR would go away and the Board of Health guidance would be the guiding document.
Okay, just supplant that. It would supplant the AR.
Right.
Okay.
But for your purpose, it would be approving the first read of just the policy of JHCCF.
So that's ultimately what I want to clarify is tonight, the first reading, and then we approve it next board meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
So the idea is that first read is then puts it on record and allows public comment happen prior to the official reading.
Okay,
For approval of the next board meeting.
got it.
Be interested to see how much public comment we get on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It was just that one, right? Just. So moving on to 7.0. Now we can do the 7.1 superintendent report.
Yeah, we have, what I recommend is that there's actually a motion to approve as the first reading. I'll put it in the record, as far as how people, vote on the policy for the first read prior to going to the second read.
So we have to take a vote on it?
I would recommend that it goes towards a motion and a vote for that first read.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's the part that I was getting stuck on, because normally we just have it as a first read and don't take it. Okay. First reading, JHCCF. So moved.
I'm saying.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. So that'll be the standard procedure from now on with the policies that are being updated.
Yeah.
You have to review.
We've only had others so far, as first read. As far as putting it, so that it's new for a way of business.
Okay. Third time is the charm for 7.0. I really miss when John's not here.
All right, so in your packet, it's got a number of things. That's gonna start with just number one under your gold paper. So we are currently working, as students talked about tonight, around looking at a high school library update, also a forestry building update. Was contacted by our education foundation board about wanting to partner as far as updating the high school library. What we started with is contacted a local architect and then went through a tour of the high school, tour of the first forestry building. Just get that initial sense of what it is that it might look like. And this is very, very initial. So when you talk about the students doing a petition, I'm not sure what they've heard or been talking about yet. So part of the update we're talking about is one of the corners, which would have been the southeast corner, is a funny little shape, but turning that into a computer lab as an example. Making perhaps a wall. There's some ideas that just came up in the tour for books to increase the amount of space we have for books in there. Recently, the high school librarian put in a grant to the Education Foundation asking for new furniture. It was a pretty big ask at the time, so it wasn't initially approved. But it did get the attention of the Education Foundation, so that's where they kind of came forward and said that we're interested in knowing what it is that we want to like to do. So looking at new furniture, making some more just usable student space. One of the things that we've heard about the students when we've worked with them on the parking lot area and clearing the parking lot area out is that they don't have their own space to go to. So part of the strategy for increasing student space within the confines of the areas of the school we're more actively managing. Looking at updating and perhaps moving the copy for our YT program, which is currently in the canteen or the snack area within the gymnasium. So moving that out and perhaps doing a walk-up window into the library, having it served out of that space. Updating the lights, windows, there perhaps is some seismic work that needs to be done as well. When we're heard from the architect, is that also when you start messing with the windows, the R value and as far as coding, you have to pay attention to. So checking out, see if there's actually enough insulation within the space. Went through a similar tour of the forestry building and turned that back into actually useful classroom space to create some space within the classroom. So what was brought up as an idea is to go have Mrs. White move her classroom out, and then we'll have kind of a CTE type of an area out there between Mrs. White, Mr. Bowden, and Mr. Smith, the shop, wood shop, metal shop, and her egg program. And again, some seismic issues come out around that. So that was the just initial walkthrough. From there, we were put in touch with a engineer of the Vancouver area that's familiar with what's called TAP grants, TAP. The TAP grants paid for analysis of seismic conditions and also getting around asbestos. The district had one back in 2019, so we qualified for that again. So we've applied. Those are supposed to be announced Wednesday, March 15th. Those are in the amount of up to $25,000. Currently, it sounds like there's been very few people actually, school districts are tied for them. So it's, I'm told is it likely will get funded for the total amount. Once that's funded, then we'll know what we can move forward as far as doing the seismic analysis. That then has potential to turning into a seismic, I guess, reconditioning type of grant. And a lot of those grants are as much as about 2.5 million. And that's where we get into where we actually have to do some seismic upgrades, and you have to break into the walls to put strapping down. Those grants will often also pay to actually repair. So when we get into looking at actually reconditioning the space, we can offset a lot of costs for some of those grants. So that's where we're at with the library that turned out tonight, and the forestry building as well. Question on that? Yeah.
I think it's great news about the storage building and one that we used, one. What's the, I couldn't understand the students very well, but what is the concern of the kids about the library?
I've seen the petition, like, so you, I think there's a feeling that the library would be just turned over to a coffee cart area where people could just hang out and talk. And so they saw the end of a kind of tradition. And I think that was based on misinformation. I can imagine who might be the start of that, but the idea that it would just be converted to just a place for kids to hang out, which they worry will leave some of the roguish charm of the library alone. I mean, we'll end it. So they don't really have a clear picture, but their picture is that it will be like this big open area that kids will come in and hang out and make a lot of noise and mess.
I think it's really celebratory that our kids are in favor of maintaining their library and library.
I know it's
Maybe this child was informed, but that would be, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first step is really about getting an idea that we can, if it's something that we can actually afford to do, and the Education Foundation know what they're getting into as far as possible fundraising. And then as far as like, okay, yes, this is a project we can move forward to, what does it look like as engaging with students and staff? What a plan looks like.
I don't know if we're gonna have a committee involved in that, but getting some kids on there would be a
Yeah.
So probably freshmen or sophomores.
And a middle school kid or two.
And a middle school kid, absolutely, but getting seniors in.
Somebody in your book club.
They'd be great, because they're the who inhabit that place.
Another project right now is, we just finished an electrical scope, so our metal shop was, I believe, constructed, if I get this right, I'm sure it's online, she might know, I think it was 1967 for the metal shop. Anyway. Revamping our CTE program, our metal shop program. A lot of the new equipment is built to the point where we recently wrote a grant, you go to plug in a welder and realize you don't have the electrical needs or the outlets to be able to do that. So EPUD to the back corner of the metal shop has ran a service to that spot, and it's supportive of us actually at going from that service to the metal shop. Metal shop is currently serviced through our cafeteria. So the idea being cut that service off and actually have a dedicated service to the metal shop. And then also within the metal shop, updating all of the panels within their fuses in there as well. So that it basically comes into the 21st century as far as they use it as a metal shop. So scope for that was just sent out. We've got a mandatory meeting on the 20th. So anyone that's wanting to bid on it as far as the contractor will meet with myself and Mr. Dinsdale, and then also the representative for the EPUD to walk through it and bid that out. Turn that in for us for bid and consideration. It's most likely will be a project where contractor will come in and do a lot of the surface work, and then over the summer or an extended period of time or break is where we'll have to cut surface work short time to be able to switch over to the new service. So working on that. Also in your packets, that's the supplemental one, and it's support your family's well-being and staff wellness program around Care Solace. I previously talked to you about Care Solace. So Care Solace will come on board beginning April 1st. We have got the first one, the support your family's well-being, that will go out to families on March 20th, announcing that the program is coming, and then we've also got the staff portion of it that will go on Friday the 17th. About that beginning, and they're just two informational flyers for it. Care Solace, again, is not a provider of mental health services. They are the connection with folks that will actually put you in touch with a care provider. Follow up with you to see if it was met your needs, and if not, that will have to continue to search for service providers for you until they can find a good match for you. But just information for you to roll that out. The next one here is we have got an attendance projections. And that's supplemental 2. And this is the one, so we sent out an update, we had a mistake on some of our math, so there was a separate email that came out, so you should have the one that's got the version that say updated 3/10/23 at the bottom left hand corner. Make sure you're looking at the right one. And these are using enrollment figures from January. And so as you look at these enrollment figures, in parentheses, you've got the 2022 enrollment for January, and in non-parentheses, the January 23. What you need to recognize as far as a cohort, so it started senior. And right currently in January, there were 63 seniors. The cohort, you go back to the previous year for the junior year, so the 68 there in parentheses. I just have to put those cohorts. Our high school is on a small schools grant control, so we've got to keep our enrollment below 350 so we maintain that grant. You can see the projected cohort for our high school with 98 seniors, and it's just rolling those enrollment figures forward from January. 85 juniors, 83 sophomores, 82 freshmen. We come right in that target at 348. So the intention is that we would not have any district transfers at this point in time, looking at these figures. In middle school, projected enrollment would be 58 at the 8th grade, 71 at the 7th grade, and 67 at the 6th grade. And you can see our inter-district transfers based on those numbers would be as many as 27 students for 8th grade, 14 for 7th, and 18 for 6th. Which would put us at a projected enrollment for 6th and 8th grade of 255. And K through 5, you see 5th grade, we're projecting 83, 4th grade 81, 3rd grade 71, 2nd grade 78, 1st grade 75, and kindergarten, that's 70, but that's the one that's really up in the air as far as shows up with a potential inter-district transfers at 4 at the 3rd grade level, and enrollment figure of 452.
Basically, our middle school is open, and that really is.
We've got a little bubble there. That's, yeah. The good news is enrollment is up. Budget committee, we do have 2 openings. We currently have 1 application for the 2 vacancies. First orientation meeting would be on May 1st. As it stands now, my understanding is that since we have less applications than the amount of positions to fill, is that in the past the board has just accepted that person into the role. Sherry would meet with the person, give them a little brief introduction to the budget process before the actual budget orientation meeting on May 1st. My anticipation with that, we actually reach out and invite that first public board meeting before the May 1st one, just to introduce and see if the board had any questions.
We usually have them come in and have a follow-up interview.
Definitely do that. Would have worked that probably the meeting before. Okay.
So that's all I have on our open positions is that. Yeah, somebody running for the school board, who has not on the board, it'd be really great to have them in the budget. Could I reach out to them and suggest that?
Okay. Number 6 there in your paper reports is potential update to, or actually it is an update to the AR for policy GBEB, which is communities for staff, and then also the same for the policy for the students, which is JHCC and those ARs. And so in your package, You've got supplemental 3 and supplemental 4. Supplemental 3 is policy GBEB. You noticed it was updated on October 5th, 2020, same as policy JHCC, which is the communicable disease for students, also updated on October 5th for 2020. The fixed updates for these policies really had to do and was around COVID at the time. What didn't get updated though, if you look at the corresponding ARs, the ARs are still from 11/20/2017 for both of those. And so with these, with the AR, the updates to the AR essentially adds COVID to that, combines a couple of the AR pieces into, I think, more manageable language. Give an example here. So if we take a look at the communicable diseases for staff AR and the sample AR, you'll notice under number 1, critical diseases, in the policy, it added COVID-19 to the restricted diseases. And then also to go down under the restricted diseases, caption number 1 there was updated to include COVID and combines number 2 from the current AR. So there's a little combination there that they put those two together. You look at the existing AR, number 3 essentially gets deleted. However, there's language from that section that's included throughout the other sections in the new AR. Number 4 on the new AR, there's a shift from an administrator will exclude to an administrator shall exclude, relatively small. Number 5 on the new AR includes COVID-19. That's language restricted. Number 6 is where you see some of the inclusion around language number 3 in the previous AR that was taken out. Number 7 in the new AR was the old number 5. Number 8 in the new AR was the old number 6, and number 9 was the old number 7 as they go through. The AR for the students is nearly the same, except for where it says staff or personnel, substitute for students. So this is more just an information. We're going to update the AR for those policies to get them up to date.
The staff kept informed of all of the AR changes. And it's pretty minor, but nevertheless, things like that.
They not of the exact language in the AR, but the procedures that were put in place as far as exclusion. So for instance, early in the year, we talked about staff who may have had a medical or religious exemption and updating our procedures around not doing the checking anymore, to where now it's like having a cold or flu, or you've got a fever that's basically staff are self-monitoring themselves. Administrators still have the right, even with the ARs, to go to say, you know, you're very sick, looks like you have a fever, I'm going to send you home until you can either fever free, or you get a release from the doctor to come back. So that's the extent as far as that goes. A lot of that though is not, it's not new, it just updates the policy of the current practices. And number 8, I'm not sure if there's any questions on this, but all of you should have received by now, I believe you all have, if they're going to set it up online. Email from the state about setting up an account for the statement of economic interest. This is new for school boards in 2023. So statement of economic interest, financial disclosure form filed annually by certain elected and appointed officials. For the school boards now, and the intended to disclose the source of the public servant's income, so that members of the public know where the public servant's personal financial interests lie. But again, if you haven't seen that, that should be coming out. And then April, between March and April 15th is the time that we're going to email you that, should fill that out.
I think we all got an email about that. I lost that email. Is there any way I can get another one?
Yeah, I'll make sure it happens.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I thought they ignored it. And then I still close, but I realized it was a deadline.
Wednesday, March 15th is when it will open for you to actually fill out your information.
You've already set up the account.
Yes, you guys have all got your account set up, so now we just have to file sometime after Wednesday before April 15th.
So isn't there a link or something we have to click on to get to that?
Yes, I believe they will send it out on Wednesday,
Oh, that's good.
but
I'll get another one.
yeah, you should. If you don't, let me know.
And item number 9, this went out before we met, but on Friday we met with Charlie Conrad. Charlie is a Dexter resident who had a son that graduated from Pleasant Hill. He's part of our legislature. I believe it is District 12. Which is a large area. But superintendents of schools that fall within that area met with Charlie out at Lane USP and just got to meet Charlie, answer some questions. And then out of that, Charlie's got a legislature basically coming up this next session. They'll talk about what they call their Christmas list, kind of a wish list. And so I invited Charlie to come out on Friday. We're going to do a tour of the high school, in the library, in the forestry building, and we see if we can get some legislative action, help get us some perhaps grants, matching grants, or ways to have local folks in our area help us out.
This is his first term, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's married to a guy who at the school.
Okay. Yeah, so it's steep learning curve. They're basically getting out, getting to know people, and learning all the legislative process. That's it.
All right, this brings us to 8.0.